Hey, welcome back to Mother Meets Hood podcast. I'm Makita, your host. And before we get started on today's topic, I want to say thank you for all the feedback that I got on my first episode of Mother Meets Hood podcast. I really appreciate it, and I hope you continue to support the podcast, okay? All right, so the first episode, I talked about having HG and going through it and all that stuff, right? So today's topic is going to be having HG and anxiety. All right. And I'm only speaking about my experiences, and I'm pretty sure other women who have had HG can definitely speak about their experience as well. And I would love for you guys to share it in the comments if you ever experience it, or even if you experience anxiety. Please share. So the first time I had an anxiety attack, I was about maybe 25 weeks pregnant, and I was waiting in the doctor's office. I was waiting for her to come in to, check the baby's heartbeat and all that good stuff. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I felt like I was going to faint. And I started getting sweaty. My heart was racing. And my doctor comes in, and she sees my facial expression, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But I was like, I just need to lay down. So I go lay down, and after everything passes and everything, she's like, "Have you ever experienced that before?" I was like, "No." So we're talking, and she's like, "It sounds like you just had like a whole anxiety attack." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know. So I was like, "Okay, maybe it's just a one-time thing, you know," because I didn't know what triggered it. So I go on with my pregnancy, and I probably had a few more attacks. And I have to say, I've never experienced that before my pregnancy with my daughter. Never experienced it. And I believe I developed anxiety because I had HG. And if you don't know what HG is, it's Hyperemesis Gravidarum. It's a long word to pronounce. But you can look it up, or you can listen to the first podcast that I made. But it is very difficult to deal with, especially when you're pregnant, because anything can trigger it. Here I am 2 years later, almost 3 years later after having my daughter, and I still have those attacks. It can be difficult at times because I try not to show it, especially around my kids. I try not to show it. I try to keep as calm as I can. I don't panic. I try not to panic, but it is difficult. I have found some ways to cope with it. Like, I will leave the situation or the scene that I'm in to kind of see if that will help. I know for sure some of my triggers, one of them is being like in a large crowd of people that I'm not really familiar with. That could definitely set it off, or something that wasn't really planned out, and it's just like something that was just thrown my way, and I'm just like, oh, like that would definitely trigger to for me to have an attack. But it's hard. It's hard because I thought it would go away once I had my daughter, and it didn't. If anything, it didn't get any worse than when I was pregnant, but I just assumed it was gonna go away once I had her. Just like the HD would go away, the anxiety would go with it, and it didn't. And in her newborn stages, we had a scare, and that just, I think that definitely didn't help the situation, didn't help it at all. And that yeah, it's a difficult thing to deal with. And if you don't have it, if you never dealt with it, it's hard to explain so you can understand. But it's hard. And throughout the pregnancy, I had a lot of things that came up that put me in a high risk pregnancy category, and I had to go to the high risk doctor. I had to do NSTs every week. I was doing ultrasounds like every 2 weeks, And I'm like, this pregnancy is so different than my boys. And if you're listening for the first time, I have 4 boys, and then I had my daughter. And I always said that if I ever have a daughter and go through a pregnancy, like, like if I go through a pregnancy, it was not going to be the same as the boys. And it wasn't. Completely different. But I say this to say that it is difficult but manageable. At least for me it is. Don't be afraid to seek help. Tell someone, find a doctor you trust, someone that will listen. Because I like to talk, so I'll usually call up a friend or text a friend, and that would kind of help me cope with that attack at that moment. But it was difficult through the pregnancy because I would just, out of nowhere, start to feel I'll start sweating, and I'm just like, what is going on? And then my doctor saw it. She was like, yeah, and then I remember the first time I had one in public, I had to leave. I was at a family gathering and I had to leave. I couldn't stay. I panicked and I grabbed my kids up and I went back to my car and I went home. I just couldn't deal with the crowd and the way that they were doing things. It just triggered me, and I just like, no, we got to go. So I left, but, yeah, I'm dealing with it. Like I said, I talk to friends when something isn't right with me. If something comes up, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to someone. Let me call so-and-so, and, and they're going to listen and, help me talk me through it and all that stuff. But it's a rough thing to go through, especially when you're pregnant, because you're already pregnant. You already have certain fears or worries when you're pregnant, right? I think every woman that has been pregnant has worries and fears when they're pregnant. They just want to make it to term. They want to deliver a healthy baby. And me being high risk, all I wanted to do was deliver a healthy baby. And my anxiety was just always on. Labor and delivery was another one. I was in panic mode the whole time. But yeah, I just want to make awareness about it. It's not talked about a lot. So it's my mission to get the word out. Sometimes it just takes that one person, right? But if I could find other women who has gone through the same thing, we can get the word out together. So leave your comments down below, and I appreciate you guys listening, and I will see you guys or talk to you guys next week.